We must urgently begin to rebuild the bonds of trust and respect among Americans. Between police and citizens, yes, but also across society. Restoring trust in our politics, our press, our markets. Between and among neighbors and even people with whom we disagree politically. This is so fundamental to who we are as a nation and everything we want to achieve together.
Former Secretary of State, now Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, talking about trust in politics today, among other things. This as the investigation into donors of the Clinton Foundation continues. Frank Giustra, who is a businessman, used to own Uranium One, the uranium company that was under the spotlight. He's a close ally of former President Bill Clinton, who's donated millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation. He's defending the fact that 1,100 donors were not listed by the Clinton Foundation. We're not trying to hide anything, he says to Bloomberg. There are, in fact, 1,100 undisclosed donors to the Clinton Foundation, Giustra says, most of them non-U.S. residents who donated to the CGEP, another form of the Clinton Foundation. Giustra says that's because Canada's federal privacy law forbids CGEP, a Canadian registered charity, from revealing its donors. Canadian tax and privacy law experts were dubious of this claim. Len Farber, former director of tax policy at Canada's Department of Finance, says he wasn't aware of any tax laws that would prevent the charity from releasing its donors' names. Quote, there's nothing that would preclude them from releasing the names of donors, he said. It's entirely up to them. This, of course, as the Obama administration had to deal with Secretary of State Clinton to disclose it all. We'll start there. Let's bring in our panel. Syndicated columnist George Will, radio talk show host Laura Ingraham, and Ron Fournier, senior political columnist of National Journal. Ron, so, you know, this soundbite about rebuilding the bonds of trust.
Yes, I banged my head on my computer when I saw that. If you're someone like me who actually thinks judicial reform is a very important policy and actually agrees with a lot of what she had to say, this is especially frustrating because you can't lead, you can't get anything done if you can't be trusted. And let's just look at the score here really quickly. She talked about, first of all, she violated ethics laws on both, and rules on both the emails and the foundation. She said that she did the email jujitsu out of a matter of convenience. We know that's not the truth. We know that's not the case. She said that she was sending emails to aides and they were captured under the State Department email address. We know that's not the case. They said that they disclosed all of the foundation donations. And we know that's not the case. Then they said that they couldn't disclose these because of the Canadian law. We know that's not the truth. So whatever you think about her politically, it's very clear that her launch, the launch of this campaign, has been an assault on the public trust. So you can't on one hand talk about how we have to mend our political nature and mend our political ways, assaulting the public trust. She has to get right on these issues or she can't lead this country.
Laura?
How does she get right on these issues? That's the question. She gives a nice speech and taken out of context, I think maybe some of these points I would even agree with. But there's a reason she took that big hit in the recent trustworthiness poll that was just showed that people had seen the Clintons for what a lot of people think they are. They're people who are very smart, lots of talents, but maybe their devotion to public service ends up, for whatever reason, being a devotion to self-aggrandizement, building one's own wealth. You go from having no money, as Hillary Clinton said, to in a few short years being worth over $200 million, giving a lot of speeches to a lot of enterprises that seek to benefit from their relationship with you. It always comes down to, with the Clintons, whether you can prove wrongdoing, whether you can prove intent, whether you have physical evidence or evidence of the smoking gun, of the quid pro quo. In this case, you have the appearance, at the very least, of deep, deep conflicts of interest, where the interest of America is put secondary and the interest of the Clintons and their future relationships with their foundation and maybe even personal wealth gets in the front seat. That kills her reputation of being someone to fight for the little person. That's toxic, I think.
That has been the shred of evidence that they question the credibility of the author of this book, Clinton Cash, Peter Schweitzer. But on substance, going down the list of things, she will eventually have to directly answer questions, right?
I'm not sure. because they emit this sort of fog of denial until it's gone on for a while, and then they say it's old news. So there's an excluded middle there that you're pointing to where she'd actually answer questions. One of the things elections do for a democracy is they deprive the voters of the right to complain. That is, the Clintons are an open book, and they've been reading themselves to us for 25 years. And if, at the end of this, we put them back in power, and two for the price of one, as he said in '92, and it's true this time around, the country has no right to complain, because there'll be no buyer's remorse. We knew everything.
So you're saying that potentially she is the perfect vessel to talk about trust in politics?
No, I'm saying that the great strength of the Clintons, most exemplified by her husband, but now by her also, is an absolute inability to feel embarrassment. There's a tremendous strength comes from that, and she's showing it.
I think the times have changed a lot since the 90s in a lot of ways. They're not going to be able to get away with as much as they did before. The fog of war isn't going to be as advantageous to them as it was in the past. Could she still win election if she doesn't get this behind her? Sure, because somebody's going to have to win the election. The American public, 51% of the public, might find the Republican nominee to be even less acceptable, even more repulsive than the Democratic nominee. So you've won the election, but then what do you have? You're leading a party or a country that is more polarized and has less trust in politics and the leader than you did before you came into office, and you won't be able to get anything done.
Quickly, Laura, but on the substance of the rest of this speech, on